Right. So today we have to start. Today we have to discuss about the weekly current affairs of which subject? Geography and internal security. Right. So few topics were news. One country from Africa, okay, was in the news continuously. It has been news for past few weeks due to conflict, crisis, and some development has happened here. Now see, whenever in you this talk about some countries coming from different parts of the world, okay, if they are making news headlines, you not have to go into details about the internal issues and all. Largely you have to focus on what geographical features, okay, which are the major geographical features of that area, okay, whether you have important mountain ranges, you have important river system, right, and other things like that. So this is what we have discussed. Now briefly to understand that why this particular country is making the news headlines. So first of all, you have outbreak of a disease, okay. What is this disease called as? Ebola. Okay, Ebola is kind of viral disease. Largely, it spreads from the fruit bats. Fruit bats you have, and from their monkeys also. So, because this is the equatorial area, so you have dense forest. Okay, and a lot of fruit bats and monkeys are found, monkey species. That is why you have Ebola outbreak in the Kasai province. This is the area that is in blue. Okay, that is the region where you have the Ebola outbreak in the entire Democratic Republic of Congo. So, WHO, that is World Health Organization, has ran a vaccination campaign, but the problem is that they are running short of funds. So they have said that the largest problem or the biggest problem they are facing is that they not have adequate funds. That is why they cannot procure adequate number of vaccines, and that has led to killing of death of many people, especially children, because children have weak immunity, and that is why who is most vulnerable? Children, okay, or old age people, we can say to some extent. That is the problem. Second problem is because Democratic Republic of Congo has been in a situation of what we can call as civil war, okay, and civil war has also led to a displacement of almost millions of people, and it also has caused a food crisis. So 28 million people here, it is believed to be suffering from acute hunger as such, right? So this is the other problem. So first is Ebola crisis, second is food crisis, and because of civil war, what do we have? Violence by rebel groups as such. The rebel groups are called as M23 here. Sometime in UPSC prelims they also ask these kind of questions. That recently a group, an organization called by M23 was seen in news. Which of the region do these groups belong to? So what should be answer here? Democratic Republic of Congo. Why M23? Because the movement, revolution, rebellion, we can say, they began on the March 23rd. Okay, March 23rd. That is why it is called as M23 groups, right? So this is the thing. Now DRC, Rwanda, both countries are there. Rwanda is on this side. So these countries are also engaged. So they have signed a peace agreement, and there you have the involvement of two countries, that is United States of America and Qatar. Okay, but again, this is just on paper. The actual implementation or effect of this is not being seen. Still, violence has continued. So M23, March 23 movement rebels, they are largely operating in the Kivu region. Okay, you have Kivu, North Kivu, South Kivu, and all that. Second group with which they are fighting is ADF, that is Allied Democratic Front. So here you also you can see you have involvement of which organization? A terrorist organization, that is Islamic State as such. So IAS has linked up and formed a group called as ADF, that is Allied Democratic Forces, and this is in the Ituri. Ituri is in the northern part. You have the forested area. Ituri is the forest. So in the Ituri forest you have ADF. In Kivu region you have M23, and then in all other regions that was not shown in blue area, you have the government forces of Democratic Republic of Congo. So overall, if talk about civil war, three groups are there. They are largely fighting within each other in the same territory of Congo as such. That is government forces, ADF, and M23 rebel fighters such. So that has caused a lot of displacement and a lot of death, unnecessary death, we can say. So if you look at the number again, not have to write about all this, but overall 1.6 million people are believed to have displaced internally within Democratic Republic of Congo itself. Many people have left the country to go in the nearby safer places such as Rwanda, you have in the east, Uganda, you have Tanzania also further. And you can try to understand 28 million people. It is very, very huge number. Okay, such a high number. So 28 million people are kind of do not have enough food. They are facing mass starvation, hunger, and all that. So still, okay, in the 21st century, we are talking about the artificial intelligence and all that. And you can imagine that there is certain section of population in certain part of the world who cannot even get enough food. So this is kind of what a contradiction we see if we talk about the global development and all that. So all these are the reasons why DRC has been making the news headlines. Peace agreement we have discussed largely by two countries. US is involved here and Qatar is involved here. So they have signed what we call as Doha Declaration of Principles. The effort was largely that there should be some kind of ceasefire. Okay, ceasefire so that the relief effort can be ensured in those areas. People who are what you can call as injured, they can be evacuated and all these kind of things. But again, on the ground, we do not see its actual implementation. Washington Accord also is the other name because US is involved here. Challenges is that M23 is not party to some deals. Trust deficit and ceasefire violations is continuously being recorded here, right? So that is why the exact implications is not to that great extent. Now, what is the importance or significance of Rwanda? Right. So, what is the significance of Rwanda? First of all, as compare like as implications is not that great. So basically, what I'm saying that DRC is rich in mineral wealth. Almost all countries of Africa, you can understand, you have rich, huge mineral resources and such. And two major mineral resources that DRC export is which one? Cobalt and copper. So just two things you have to keep in mind. Other mineral resources are there, but largely DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, is known for two major minerals, that is cobalt and copper. And because of the conflict, what we are seeing, export also has been disrupted as such. Now, this will have a global implications because if these are critical minerals as far as industrialization is concerned, industrial activities are concerned. So, if DRC is not able to export it, that means everywhere you will feel what? Impact of this. For example, even if some other countries are able to export, but due to the supply reduction, what will happen? The demand is same or demand is increasing. So, price of these commodities will see an increase. That means overall impact we will see on what? Economy of India also. So, that is how we can link it with the other development. Now, coming to the map part, the most interesting thing that we have to keep in mind, we have discussed that in geography class also. We have talked about that in Africa. Okay, if I draw Africa here like this, here I told you that what is going on. You have the continental what divergence. Okay, that means this side we have which plate? Nubian plate. This side what do we have? Somali plate. Okay, and along this entire region, what is going on? Somali plate and Nubian plate are being pulled apart. So, in this region, what is this region called as? Where the splitting is taking place. It is an example of, we have talked about Rift Valley, African Rift Valley as it is referred as. So, basically, because of the African Rift Valley, here and there I told you water gets accumulated. And when the water gets accumulated, what forms? Lake, right? So we have a lot of Rift Valley lakes and names we have written in the class. That is Lake Albert. Okay, we have talked about what? Lake Edward. We have discussed about lake. So volcanic eruptions are taking place in the Rift Valley Lake. So what are the volcanoes here? One of the major volcanoes of Africa is located in the DRC. That is called as Mount Nyiragongo. Okay, so Mount Nyiragongo, very important volcano. And now comes the most important part which you have to keep in mind. Very, very important because this is only seen in Congo. In the entire world you are talking about, in the entire world, if question is asked that which river crosses the equator is very important line. So in the entire world, which river crosses the equator twice? What should be the answer? Congo river, located where? In the Democratic Republic of Congo as such. Nowhere else on the entire earth a river crosses equator twice. Major river you're talking about, not minor streams. So as you can see, Congo river originates from here, Zambia. Okay, you have in the south of DRC, Zambia. So from Zambia, the river originates, then flows like this. Now, while flowing in northward direction, once it is crossing the equator, again it goes, again what is doing? It is taking kind of U-turn, we can say. Again, while taking U-turn, it crosses the equator from north to south. So this is the first crossing here, and this is the second crossing. And after that, it goes and simply drains out in which ocean? Atlantic Ocean. So this is very, very important fact. Questions like this, okay, there is very high chance such kind of questions UPSC will ask because they are asking these questions in previous year also. So Congo River, the only river on the entire earth which crosses equator twice and is located in the Democratic Republic of Congo as such. Okay, so this is the point that we have to keep in mind here. Apart from that, nothing much. Okay, lake already we have discussed in class notes, right? Rift Valley, the formation and all, how it happens, we already have discussed in the continental divergence. So that is about the first topic, that is DRC. Second topic is related to DRC. Second topic is related to climate of India, where scientists have seen in this particular year. We also have discussed in earlier current affairs classes that we have seen large scale rainfall in many parts of Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand and all that, triggering landslides and all. So heavy rains is being seen or has been observed in the Himalayas, and this is largely on the account of how many factors? Three factors scientists stated. First is the topography, second is the climate change that is taking place all across the world, and because of all these factors and heavy rainfall, there is also a higher risk for the disaster in the which region? Himalayan region as such. Okay, so we have to understand how they are linking. Again, this is a subject of research. We not have clear-cut answer, but we know that to some extent topography, climate change, and all disaster is linked. So that is what we have to understand in this particular topic. Now, why it was a news? Because recently in the Uttarakhand we have seen, last current affairs class also we have discussed what we have witnessed, flash floods. Okay, we have witnessed due to flash floods, landslides, and all these are caused due to what? Heavy rainfall. And last class I told you that there is a increase in the cases of mini cloudburst everywhere. So cloudbursts are responsible for this, and overall damage to the infrastructure such as dams and all that also we have seen to some extent, and this is because of heavy rainfall. So to what extent heavy rainfall? We have to look at data also. We cannot just say that this year we have heavy rainfall. Okay, it is not subjective. So IMD has clearly stated that in August month itself, if you look in the Himalayan region, we have 34% more rainfall than what we generally on average record as such. If we talk about early September, the rainfall that is being witnessed in Himalaya is how much times higher? 67%. This is very, very high value. Okay, 34% in August and 67% in the early September, more than above than normal rainfall we have witnessed in the Himalaya as such. Okay, like for example, Udhampur in Jammu and Kashmir. Today we have discussed about Udhampur Dunes, right? That is in Jammu Kashmir. So Udhampur Dun, Leh that you have in the area. You can imagine Leh generally is considered as a kind of desert, dry desert. But this year you have even 59 mm of rainfall in the Leh, and this is what? Highest since 1973. Okay, Leh has never recorded such huge amount of rainfall since 1973. So this is for the first time. So that is what we are talking about. That in the entire Himalayas, Trans Himalayas, we can say we are witnessing heavy rainfall with data we have proved. Now, how topography plays a very important role here. This is again we have discussed in classes. Okay, also that what actually happens is that Himalaya, what I told you, which kind of slope it has? Asymmetrical slope, and the southern slope is very, very steep. Okay, suddenly rising like this. Northern slope is relatively gentle. Now what happens, because Himalayas are like this, if you look at the longitudinal division, so you have the monsoon winds coming from which side? Here you have Bay of Bengal, right? And from this side also you have western disturbances that comes. So all these are striking which slope of Himalayas? Both of these branches that carry moisture are striking southern slope. Southern slope is what? Very, very steep. So if the slope is very steep, what will happen to the warm and moist wind? It will rise very suddenly. If it is rising very suddenly, we know that whenever you have sudden rise of the moist and warm air, which kind of clouds form? Right, we have discussed that in cold front, right, in thunderstorm also. So cumulonimbus cloud form, that is very dense, tall, towering cloud, and from that what we observe? Very heavy and sudden short duration rainfall as such. So that is the first thing we have to understand, that steep slopes plus fragile geology, basically same thing, Himalayas. So it amplifies the risk. Plus we have seen that Himalaya is not a single range. You have multiple ranges. 3 already we have discussed in the Himalaya itself. So all between these ranges, what do you have? Narrow valleys. So narrow valley means the place that is required for water to flow is very limited. Okay, so whenever you have sudden heavy rainfall, water has to flow through this narrow valley. That means whatever and whoever is residing in the valley area, they will be at very high risk of getting flooded. And that is why you'll see in the valley area, you have seen many villages, many towns, many cities being completely inundated and destroyed because the water has been flowing at very fast speed as such. So steep catchment, accelerated runoff, accelerate runoff and all that, that is the other issues. This is the same thing. Orographic lift, we have discussed 3 mechanisms of rainfall: convectional, orographic and frontal, right? So orographic lift is what? When the water is rising, warm air is rising due to the presence of what? Orographic barrier, that is mountain barrier. Okay, we have discussed that in Chinook Peak or in the Western Ghats also. Plus soil gets saturated if there is a heavy amount of rainfall. So if soil gets saturated, they will start to what? Mix with the water, and they will not be staying at one place. Rather what happens? They become very loose, and suddenly all along with the water they start to rush in the downward direction, and this such huge volume of sediment also causes blockage in the path, right? Water is coming here and a lot of sediments are being carried out. Sediment will accumulate. Due to this, what will happen? Water will also start to accumulate, and suddenly what will happen? If more and more rainfall is going on, suddenly this collapse of the structure you would see, and that will again cause second wave of flooding as such. Okay, so this is all how we have to understand the topography of Himalayas play a very important role here. Second factor, okay, we have to understand is obviously climate change is a global phenomena, and it is believed that today in climate change we talk about what is the phenomena that we are witnessing. Global warming. Global warming is simply the rise in the temperature of atmosphere. So if temperature of atmosphere is rising, that means what you can say, atmosphere is overall warming. Now we have discussed in class that if you have a warm air parcel and if you have a cold air parcel, which will consist more water vapor, right? If you have warm air, in warm air what do you have? The air molecules are far apart, that means the space between them is more. That means warm air parcel will be able to contain what? More volume of moisture. So more moisture, that means water or water vapor will remain in the atmosphere for a prolonged duration, and suddenly if the situation and the condition changes, what will happen? They'll come down in the form of heavy rainfall. Okay, we have discussed about the concept of humidity capacity, and I told you humidity capacity is directly proportional to temperature. So this is nothing. If temperature is increasing, humidity capacity is increasing. That means more and more water vapor is evaporating from the oceans, and they are accumulating where? In the atmosphere. When the warm air suddenly rises, what happens? All this water vapor condenses, come down in the form of heavy downpour as such. So that is how we can link it to the global warming. Second, we also have seen the monsoon shifting. Okay. Earlier, like for example, Leh we have discussed. Till 1973, you do not have heavy rainfall. Why? Because it is believed that monsoon winds are largely occupying which part of Himalayas? Southern part of Himalayas. Leh is where? On the northern side of Himalayas. So you're witnessing heavy rainfall in north. That means what is happening? Monsoon winds that used to reside or live, used to basically flow to the south of Himalayas. Now where are they going? To the north of Himalayas. This means we can say it is what? Shifting of monsoon dynamics. Okay, northward travel of low pressure system monsoon winds from Bay of Bengal that we are seeing as such. So that is also linked with climate change. How exactly we do not understand it, but to some extent we are linking to the global warming and climate change. That is what is responsible for northward shift of monsoon winds also. Third, again same thing, unusual rainfall distribution, like in desert area we are having the rainfall, and also in the upper part of Himalayas rainfall will happen in the form of snow because the temperature is very less. That means what will happen? You have the glaciers, the volume of glaciers will keep on increasing, and suddenly you have the certain volume, like for example this is suppose the lake, okay, up to here the water is full, and if more and more snowfall is going on, it is accumulating here, then gradually melting in the this due to warming, and then suddenly what will happen? Failure of the lakes, that is called as glacial lake outburst flow. Okay, the lake is not able to contain the entire water, it suddenly bursts, okay, it breaches, water breaches, and suddenly what happens from here? Huge volume water begins to rush and gust in the downward direction, causing flash flood. Within a few seconds, few minutes, you have the flood-like situation as such. So this is how we can link it to the climate change. So climate change influence, we have topography impact, and all these have resulted in the disasters that we are seeing, cascading hazards that we are seeing in the Himalayas, and the flash floods, same thing we have discussed. It is first we can say it is causing flash floods, it is related to cloudburst, it is related to what? Landslides and mudslides, all simple to understand. So landslides, debris flow, that is triggered by intense rainfall, plus soil is not able to become stable as it gets solubilized with what? With the water as such, right? Then glacial lake outburst flood that we have discussed, river choke points, infrastructure washout, roads, bridges and all that are simply destroyed like a pack of cards as such. Okay, you would have seen videos coming from the Uttarakhand and all these areas. When you have flash floods, you have entire village. Okay, so many houses are there. I also gave you example that there was a hotel. Okay, hotel with 40 rooms and 3-4 floors. Entire hotel was washed away in few seconds. Okay, there after few seconds you cannot even imagine that there used to exist some kind of building as such. So that is how the fury of nature unfolds. Okay, and you construct so many infrastructure project, you construct tunnel, dam, and you think that you are very powerful. Okay, but nature in 1 second show you which is who is most powerful as such, right? That is one example here. Socio-economic environmental impact also will have, because obviously you can link, if infrastructure damage is going on, that means who is losing life? People are losing their homes, they have to get displaced because they have lost their homes, right? So Uttarakhand, Himachal, Jammu, Kashmir, you have seen this. Obviously because of such conditions, you cannot imagine that tourists will go risk their life. So impact on tourism will further cause what? Loss of revenue for the people, loss of income for the people, that will drive them into the cycle of rampant poverty, unemployment and all these kind of things. Okay, so that is the thing. Plus agriculture, hydropower projects also are impacted to some extent. Infrastructure damage obviously you will see. Plus because of the floods, what will happen? The biodiversity that you have in the forest area or in the river ecosystem, in the glacier area, will also face threat from it, right? So you'll have a multidimensional effect, and that is how UPSC frames question. If you look at the mains examination, they're not asking these days to discuss climatic impact or discuss the biodiversity impact, discuss the economic impact. What they write, that discuss the multidimensional impact or effect. So when you are preparing for this topic, make sure that you prepare from all angles. Okay, it is very easier to understand, but you have to think at least once. Now, how we can stop it? So first of all, only thing is that because climate change is the major driver of all these changes, so you have to reduce greenhouse gases emission. For that, a lot of efforts are being made, like for example, switching to clean energy and all that. But in the short period of time, we have to focus on investment in which kind of systems? Early warning system, because many times we have seen the people who are getting trapped in the floods, they could have been evacuated and saved if you had early warning. Such kind of situations are going to unfold as such. So strengthen of early warning system, like forecasting of cloud burst, more number of radars. We have a lot of radar gaps in the Himalayas, so a lot of radars should be placed there. Plus there is a requirement of multi-agency coordination, so the disaster management effort can be ensured in a quick possible time and also with a coordinated and integrated manner as such. So that is how we have to understand this second topic. Right. Third we have is the agriculture, we can say, where India has raised the target to produce 119 million tons of wheat in the year 25-26. So new target has been given by Ministry of Agriculture, that in this particular year, in this fiscal year, we are going to produce highest ever. We in the entire history have never produced this much amount of wheat. Okay, Indian history we are talking about. So that is why it is significant, because we have given ourselves a record target that we have to achieve in the year 25-26 as such. Now if you look at the key facts, this we already have discussed. 119 million tons of wheat we have to produce. Last year how much we have produced? 117.51. Okay, so 24-25, not very high, and previous target was 115 million tons. So target was this much, and how much was actual production? 117.51. So we have exceeded our target, and this time we have given a target of 190 million tons. So there is very high possibility that we again will be able to exceed target. Now target and the numbers are not that much important from examination, because wheat is in news, and in the geography you have to look at the requirement of the major crops. That major crops like wheat, rice, pulses, they grow in which kind of condition? So first of all, wheat is which kind of crop? We will say it is a Rabi crop. Rabi crops means those which are sown in winter season and harvested in the summer season as such. So for example, wheat you have, like black gram for example you have, all these are what kind of crop? Rabi crop. Now what is the temperature range? So this is the temperature range. While sowing of crop, temperature should be 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. In the growth phase it should be between 15 to 20, and during the ripening phase, end phase, it should be 20 to 25. That means you do not have to remember all these phases. Simply we can say the ideal temperature range in India for the wheat cultivation is how much? Between 10 degree to 25 degrees Celsius, right? Plus it requires rainfall, but lower rainfall, lesser rainfall as compared to rice. Rice require more than 200 centimeters of rainfall. Wheat can grow in the rainfall range of 75 to 100 centimeters as such. Okay, more during growth rainfall is required, and dry sunny weather is required in the ripening phase. There should not be rainfall as such. That is why harvested in summer. Bright sunlight is required during ripening. Again you can link it, because it is being harvested in summer. So in the summer is the time when it is ripening, and that is when it requires what? Bright sunlight, right? So this is how we can understand the major requirement, climatic requirement for the growth of this wheat crop as such. That is the main thing. Now coming back to the target, if we look at the Rabi and food grain target, so Rabi season food grain target was 171.14 million ton in 25-26. Okay. Now see here in the Rabi crops we are talking about, majority of the area which is covered under Rabi crop is under which crop? Single crop, that is wheat. And that is also one of the problem raised by many agriculturalists. They are saying that we are not focused on diversification. Okay, we are just focused on what? In the Kharif, we focus on rice cultivation. In the Rabi, we focus on the wheat cultivation. So we have to give emphasis on the other crops. For example, we have millets. Okay, millet crop, for example, right? Pulses, oil seeds. Because for oil seeds, we are importing it from other countries. Pulse also we have imported in the recent past from the other country as such. So that is the thing that we have to rectify. We have been overly focused on just two crops, that is rice and wheat. Now the question comes that the target of 119 MT, what is the possibility it will be met, or if it will be met, what are the key drivers? Okay, that why government has come up with such a lofty target? So there are various reasons. First of all, you know that what you are producing crop from? Seed. So it is expected that for such amount of wheat production you require how much seeds? 22.9 million tons. But already we have how much seeds? 25 million tons. So for production of 119 MT of wheat, this is the amount of seed required. We already have more than that requirement. That means we are very well in the target. Okay, very well moving in the terms of achieving target. Second, government also has come up with a new program, new scheme, that is called as Viksit Krishi Sankalp Abhiyan. Okay, that will be launched from October 3rd. This is a central government scheme, and largely it focuses on knowledge and technology transfer to farmers. Knowledge and technology transfer. The aim and the focus is to transfer knowledge and technology to farmers so they can take advantage, okay, take advantage of the development, take advantage of the advancement we have seen in the science and technology, right? So that is the thing. Third, we also expect this year what? Good weather condition. Requirement of rainfall is there. So we have the expectation of very good rainfall in this monsoon. So good rainfall is present there. And because this year also, this year means 2026 we are talking about, right? And favorable soil moisture. Why? Because this year itself, what we have seen in the monsoon? Heavy rainfall. We just have discussed. That means already due to heavy rainfall in the areas where wheat is cultivated, soil moisture content is what? Very high. So already water is present, and then again we'll have heavy rainfall, good rainfall. That means climatic conditions, weather conditions also are favorable. That means we can very well achieve this target. Plus here the Minister of Agriculture has focused that rather than increasing or achieving the target, we also should focus on what? Improving the yield per hectare of land. That means yield per unit area of land, right? See, if you have to achieve a target of producing certain volume of the food grains, one thing you can do is, earlier suppose X amount of area was used here, X amount of area was used for cultivation. You further add more area, then what will happen? You'll have probability of increasing the overall production. But rather than focusing upon this, what we should do? Even in the same X area, per unit area of land, how much wheat is being produced, that you should focus on increasing or intensifying. So that has been the emphasis, that has been the subject of emphasis by the Ministry of Agriculture. We should focus on what? Per hectare productivity, not on the general productivity, okay, not on the overall productivity as such. So we have to not focus on area expansion, we have to focus on increasing productivity, increasing yield. So this is very important point, because agricultural land are facing a lot of competition from developmental perspective, okay, like for example habitation development, housing projects, or you have industrialization and all that. Now what can be the challenges and risk that we might not be able to achieve this particular goal if what we have? Variation climate. Again we are predicting only, forecasting that we will have good weather or good rainfall. It does not mean that there is 100% guarantee we will have good rainfall, because later on we will discuss in monsoon it is determined by more than 10-12 factors are there. So if any 1-2 factors become adverse, in that case rainfall will be reduced. So for example, there is a probability of heat waves. If heat waves become normal in the summer season, in that case we will have problem, or if there is untimely rains, we can have problem like that. So climate, the variability of climate can obviously present a challenge to us. Second, the input cost. Input cost means how much are the farmers putting the money, capital for growing of the crops. That has been rising continuously. Why? Because the fertilizer prices has been increasing. Diesel prices, because of oil supply shocks we have seen increasing in the past. So tractors, harvester, all these things we are running, largely they are running on what? Fuel. So fuel prices increases, the cost of production will also increase. And if cost of production increases, farmers might use less area for the wheat cultivation, they might give it to some other crops where the cost of production is what? Relatively low, right? Third is there is a disparity in the regional productivity. For example, if we talk about the regions where the wheat is produced in India, so it is the western and the eastern part. For example, you start from Punjab, Haryana, go to Uttar Pradesh and go to Bihar as such, right? So this is the region where what do we have? Wheat productivity. But only in the Punjab, Haryana, what do we have? Very high productivity. Eastern part is lagging behind. That means 1 acre of land, how much wheat you are getting in Punjab, Haryana, it is much more higher than the same amount of land that is producing wheat in the eastern part of India. So we have to also focus on what? Reducing this gap or disparity as such. Just focusing upon increasing production is not significant. Storage and procurement logistic can also complicate situation, because wheat is getting support under what? Minimum support prices, okay, to be distributed under public distribution system. So if you are producing more wheat, that means the government will have to procure more wheat. If government will have to procure more wheat, that means what will come under strain? logistics. Okay, that how the Food Corporation of India is the government, this organization, department we can say, that is responsible for arranging this logistic, but they also are restrained with resources and all that. Okay, so this kind of problems we can see in the future as such in the wheat production. Right. This again to understand target, overall 24-25, 115 ton was target, 117.51 was the actual, 2025-26 we have 119 million tons of target. So we have to wait and see that how much are we able to achieve in this particular year itself. Okay. Now coming to the fourth topic, that is exercise Yuddh Abhyas. Exercise Yuddh Abhyas 2025. Right. So exercise Yuddh Abhyas, it is more important because it is being carried out between India and United States of America. Okay, the two major partners that we have here. And this is very old exercise. This we can see from the fact that this year was which edition? 21st edition. 21st time we have carried out this exercise. It was 2 weeks exercise. So not only it is the oldest, but also in terms of duration, if you look, majority of the exercises, bilateral military exercises that India carries is somewhere between 3 days to 1 week. Okay, 10 days we can say maximum. So this is one of the longest exercise that India carry out with the US military. So 2 weeks, okay, 2 weeks and over 3 different places it has been carried out. So locations, these are Fort Van Wright, then you have Yukon training area, and you have Donnelly. So at 3 different places we have carried out this bilateral exercises. And also in terms of the personals involved, how many personals? 450. That is almost a size of battalion we can say. A battalion is of around 1000. So 450 Indian personals have been involved in the exercise. And from India's side it is the Madras regiment. Right? If you look in Indian Army, you would have read or heard that entire army is divided into what? Regiment. You have Mahar regiment, Madras regiment, Bihar regiment. Okay, you have Sikh regiment, Jat regiment, and all that. So from India's side, in this particular exercise, the military personnel of which regiment has participated? Madras regiment. From American side, we have seen the participation of one of the elite forces that you have in US called as 11th Airborne Division. Okay, so these are the two forces which have participated in this particular Yuddh Abhyas exercise. So these are some basic facts you have to keep in mind from prelims point of view. Now coming to the geography, where exactly we have carried out the exercise. So all these training grounds are, which state is it? Alaska. Okay, if you look at the map here, this is USA and this is the 50th state of US, nearby the Arctic Circle. So this is Alaska. In Alaska, here you have the Fort Van Wright this year. It's in the central part somewhere. So that is where we have carried out exercise. So Alaska in US, that is the state, Alaska in the US. Now the question comes that we have carried out exercise in Alaska. So what is the objective? Okay, whenever any two countries carry out military exercises, it is not just because they have a lot of time. Okay, they are carrying out for what? Certain objective or purposes. So what was the purpose? As given by the ambassador of India to US, he has stated that one of the purpose was to check and improve interoperability. Interoperability simply means that if the situation demand, whether the US force and Indian force can join hand together to carry out joint operation or not. Okay, if they have never met before, if they do not know how each of these armies work, obviously they will not be able to carry out joint operation. So it improves interoperability where both militaries are able to understand each other's tactics. They are able to understand how the soldiers are communicating with each other. So tactics, comms, okay, how the command and control is being done by the commanders of the soldiers. Okay, commander of the battalion, for example, in this case we can say. Second most important, we know that the major threat that we face, security challenge, threat that we face is from two rivals or two enemies. One is in the west, Pakistan, other is in the east, that is China. And the area that is under dispute also for both countries are which areas? Can say it is high altitude region, that means very, very low temperature zones as such in the Himalayas, Siachen Glacier and all that we have discussed about. Alaska, if you look, is having which kind of climate? Cold climate, because it is close to where? Arctic Circle. So overall, the aim of exercise was to prepare and get training in what kind of warfare? High altitude and cold climate warfare as such. So that is to keep in consideration the threat that India faces. That is why you can understand that exercise also was carried out for a longer duration as such, okay, because it is really beneficial when it comes to the security interest of India as such, right? Plus here we know that the modern warfare has changed significantly. Today we are using large scale drones, today we are using what do you call it, electronics warfare drills and all that. So all these were also the focus area, plus joint logistic and sustainment was largely something that was dealt upon here. And scenario planning. Scenario planning means the both army come and join hand together and say that this is a scenario. And where does the interest of US and India converge? In one word, if you have to say, you will say it is in the region of Indo-Pacific, Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean, because both US and India consider China to be what? Its rival, okay, a threat in the future as such. So it is quite possible India and US maybe have to tackle China, Chinese Navy, Chinese Army, Chinese military in the Indo-Pacific region. So they have given themselves a scenario that in Indo-Pacific, this is a scenario. If this kind of scenario unfolds, if this kind of threat is being faced by the army, how will they respond as such? And how will they respond not only individually but also in a joint manner? So that is why it's very, very important. So that is why the exercise was carried out. Now, apart from that, if you look, a lot of things are there, but overall we have to understand that exercise focused on maneuvers of infantry, that is company or battalion level, where thousands of soldiers are there. Overall, basically one battalion is made up of 3 companies, okay, and overall the strength is around 1000, we can say. So that kind of participation we have seen. Live fire exercises carried out. Aviation was also integrated here, right? For example, how this is CASEVAC. CASEVAC means casualty evacuation. If someone is this getting injured, some soldier are getting injured in the battle zone, in the battlefield, how will you carry out evacuation? Because saving of life is of also paramount importance. Okay, like if example, if you have North Korea, they do not care. If people are dying, then let them die. We'll send more people. But you talk about democratic countries who care about human rights and human life, it becomes very important that you not just think about that how to kill the enemies or how to enter into the enemy's territory. You also focus on what thing? How to save the life, okay, life of the soldier. So casualty evacuation is very important and was integrated in the entire exercise. Air assault and all was carried out. Same counter UAV trials, electronic warfare and all that, it was carried out and was part of the exercise as such. That was a component. And this again same thing we have discussed. Madras regiment has been involved, 450 soldiers, nothing new. Now what is the significance? It is the timing of exercise, because you know that currently India and US are not at their best terms, especially after coming of Donald Trump as such. Okay, we have seen the difference in opinion in terms of this Russian oil sanction that the Trump has talked about, okay, or additional tariff of 25% that he has levied upon. H1B visa issue is also going on, okay, where Indians are going to be the worst affected diaspora as such. So this exercise is coming at the time when we have frictions in many spheres and most importantly in trade, but at the same time the conduct of the exercise this shows what? That still India, US, both countries value what? Strategic partnership as such. Okay, so timing of exercise is very, very important. Overall, they also are sending a message of deterrence in the Indo-Pacific, because if India and China both have earlier agreed that they are going to contain China if the need arises. If the India, US themselves are fighting with each other, it can send what? A message to China that they might do something. Okay, like for example, they can try to attack Taiwan or they try to do something in the Pacific Ocean also. So this kind of exercise send a message that is still we are together as far as the containment of China is concerned. Plus it will help in the capacity building, especially in the extreme environment regions such as Siachen Glacier and the higher altitude region. And overall, it will also be helpful in developing a diplomatic, okay, this relation in the defense sphere, where you have interoperability, where you have the trust building and all that. And recently, after the conclusion of exercises, US, the commander who was of the 11th Airborne Division, he has this clearly stated that out of all the countries US engages in the joint operations or exercises, Indian forces are one of the most professionals one, okay, that he has witnessed. So that is very significant. Okay, again, same thing to repeat basic facts. What was the exercise? Yuddha Abhyas, which edition? 21st. So very long exercise. How many personals? One of the largest personals, 450. How many days? One of the longest days, that is 14 days, and 3 different locations. So that is what we have to keep in mind as Yuddha Abhyas. The last topic we have discussed is related to the recent gaming ban that you might have heard about. Government of India has come up with online gaming ban, and also they have released a rule related to digital data protection. So briefly about these two we have to study here. So online gaming ban, for example, we know that whenever you have IPL season or cricket match season, what you had earlier, Dream 11 and all these things are there, where people are making their teams and trying to earn money as such, right? So such kind of promotion and online gaming has been completely banned as per this particular act passed in the August 2025. Effect will be from which date? October 1st, 2025 as such. So any online games which are using what kind of money? Not fake money or something like that. Okay, they are using real money. So real money online games, for example, betting, for example, or even gambling platforms, for example, all of them have been completely illegalized as such. And government has tried to make a distinction, very important distinction between what? Two things. One is what we can call as games of skill. For example, if someone is playing chess, chess is what? Game of skill. But if someone is making team in Dream 11, that is what? Games of chance. Okay, you may win money, you may lose money as such. So government has said that games of skill will not be banned. Only which kind of games will be banned? Games of chances. Okay, which actually causes a lot of loss. And in this context, to regulate this entire area, a framework has been proposed where government has said that they will come up with a national online gaming commission. Okay, this will be the overarching authority which will take care of all the implementations, and if someone is violating the rules, then punishment also in that regard. So that is the legal framework. Now prohibitions and penalties, if briefly discuss, what they have stated, that any operators or platform, they cannot offer, cannot promote, and cannot financially facilitate any kind of real money gaming, real money games as such. Okay, so Dream 11, for example, again we have seen that during that time, if you are looking at the this TV screen, so you'll see that a lot of players are there, a lot of TV stars are there, film stars are there, they're coming and advertising about this. Okay, so on them also, if they are advertising such kind of platforms, there will be heavy penalty and fines. So both influencers as well as the platforms, both of them have been brought under the ambit of this particular act as such. Plus, obviously, if you're using your real money, you are facilitating the transfer by using some kind of platforms like your banking platforms, right, or some non-banking financial corporation platform like UPI and all this that you have, PhonePe, GPay. So any financial institutions and banks who are facilitating such payment, they'll also be heavily penalized in this. So they also have been barred, that they cannot finalize or facilitate such transaction which is toward what? Real money gaming as such. So who are in the ambit of this act? First, operators and platforms. Second, advertisers and influencers. And third, financial institutions and banks. Okay, what about general public? It is illegal games. Okay, so general public anyway loses money. Okay, so anyway they are loser. So that is why government has not cared so much about them. Okay, because government is trying to protect them. Now, if someone is involved here, what kind of act it is? Very important. Non-bailable. That means if you are involved in any of these activities, police can arrest you and you will not be able to get bail. Okay, easily. Second, it is cognizable offences. This also has been proposed, but we'll see how it actually takes in picture. Now, industry impact will be obviously huge because a large number of such kind of platforms were in operations. Okay, because this is something that is not a new phenomenon. It has been going on for years and years, and especially after coming of IPL, it has become very popular as such. So we will see what mass layoffs. Okay, like mobile Premier League, for example, you have revenue losses will be there, platform will shut down. So these are some of the effect, but overall the advantages are huge because as per the recent report, it is believed that people of India, citizens of India have lost lakhs of crores of rupees collectively we talk about in this betting and gaming app and such. Second thing is related to digital personal data protection rules. The act was brought in 2023, but rule was something that government did not bring. So in this year, 2025, they have brought in this particular rule. Overall, if we try to understand, the provision is three. First of all, whenever you are sharing your information and data with some platform, they have to get consent. Without consent, they cannot take your data and use it in any way they want as such. Second, government has stated that when you're taking consent, it has to be explained in the simple manner that why you are taking the data of the user, where you will be using the data. It should be in simple, clear, lucid manner, not that you give 10-page document that without reading user can think that okay, take my data. I do not have time to read 10-page, right? Because that is other challenge. You would have seen this in your daily life also. If you are being given, if you are signing somewhere, they will send you 10-page document. What do? You scroll and just put yes, right? So you not read. So they said that you have to in simple manner, in a very short manner, you have to explain what you're doing. Second, if any minor is from who data is being taken, there is need to be some sort of parental or guardian's approval. Okay, so age verification is required. If age is less, then parental guardian this approval is required. Third, if any organization is breaching these provisions, there is a very large fine, and in some extent, the fine has been put at how much? 250 crores. Okay, and this is for largely targeting the platform like Facebook you have, Meta you have, okay, so they are very big giant companies. So 250 crore rupees of fine, it is largely for these companies, okay, if they are misusing the provisions of the bill and such. Apart from that, also government has stated that there will be a strict regulation of the cross-border data flow. That means you took data from India and then you are using this data to send to China, and Chinese government is doing something, okay, illegal with the data or doing something. For example, what they can do with the data? They understand your marketing behavior, what you are buying, right? And based on that, they can start to sell products and all these kind of things. So this is okay, but it should not be done without taking the approval of the body as such, okay, that is involved here. Plus, there should be oversight in reverse returns. For that, judiciary, educating bodies, and all this also has been envisaged here. So again, it is not implemented. Act was passed in 2023. Rule has come now, and later on we can see the implementation of this particular act as such. Most important thing, government has stated that if data is being collected by the government, then there are certain exceptions. Like for example, national security, protecting the sovereignty of India, for ensuring the unity and integrity of India, government can use data without your consent as such. Okay, so national security provisions has been given an exception here, but only for the government authorities, government organizations and officials as such. Now coming to the gaming ban again, if you look briefly, what is the rational concerns behind regulation? So first of all, same thing we discuss. What is the reason why government has suddenly come up with a ban? Addiction was there, it was kind of addiction. Gambling is nothing but addiction, right? And then it is due to this, a lot of people have lost their entire money. Recently I was looking at news, a person has taken loan and then he took loan on loan and then he took loan on loan. So almost 30 to 40 lakh, he sold his house, he sold his farmlands, okay, and after that he killed the person who asked for returning the money, right? So all this is largely because of what? Addiction, okay. It is nothing but similar like drug addiction. If person is drug addicted, he can go to any extent, okay, to get the drugs. Similarly, a person who is addicted to such kind of gambling, he can go to any extent. And that is why it was very essential, especially because youth were largely getting influenced by influencers and all that. Especially teenage population we have seen getting influenced and using parents' money without any approval and all that, right? So to make sure that such things do not happen, government has to take a step. Now also it was a threat to national security because it was observed that by using this platform, a lot of organized crime gangs are involved in what? Money laundering. Okay, money laundering means they're converting black money into white money, because it is very difficult to trace what is the source of transaction, what is the origin of money, where the money is going and all that, if you have multiple transactions, thousands of transactions being facilitated by such platform as such. So illicit financial flows and all, why online money gambling was being carried out. So that is why government also wanted to restrict it, right? Third, advertising and influencers promotion were largely targeting who? Minor group, okay, because minors they do not have that much understanding, right? So they might be more prone to taking such kind of steps and all that. So that is the reason. So regulatory fragmentation was previously state banning versus Sinha. This is the problem here. The conflict is coming because if you talk about in the polity, you would have read about, you have central list, you have a state list. So gambling is something that is under which list? A state list. That means generally it should be the state government that should come up with such kind of law. But here who has come up with law? Central government as such. So central government can come up with such kind of law only in exceptional conditions, like if you have emergency declaration, or if the Rajya Sabha gives approval in this regard, or if the two state assemblies have come together and have asked the parliament to frame this law. Otherwise, generally they do not do so. So that is why the lawyers and the legal experts are saying that this can create a problem in the implementation if the matter is sent to the court and all that. So that is the legal challenges. Second, many critics also argue that there is a very thin line that separates the games of a skill and games of chance. For example, rummy, if you talk about, or cards game that you have, many people argue it can be considered as what? Games of skill, okay, but you are classifying it as games of chance. So that is the other criticism. Third is that, okay, if any platform is operating within Indian jurisdiction, you can apply these laws. But today, the major benefit of the online platforms are, it can be based somewhere else, but it can be using this influence to take up the population, take up the people of India, okay, as a members, okay, or as example user as such. So what will you do there? Then we have virtual private network, VPNs is being used, that can also bypass the legal restrictions and all that. Plus a lot of apps are there that are basically unregulated. They have not registered and licensed and all that, but they still are providing such kind of services that people can use their money to do gambling and all that. So these are some of the enforcement hurdles that we'll have to obviously face as such. And last is the economic fallout. If you look, because it was a very big industry, right? From last 10 years, it has been continuously growing at tremendous rate. So economists estimate that overall it will cost almost how much amount of money? 20,000 crores simply in the revenue drop in tax, because these platforms were registered, they're providing tax to the government as such, okay, GST and all that. So 20,000 crore of tax revenue drop, 60% of the layout you will see in the staff, obviously local staff was from India itself, and overall the value of this entire real money gaming industry was very huge, $3.6 billion. And suddenly in one stroke, with one stroke of pen, what you have done? You have made it completely illegal as such. Okay, so this is sudden shock that will have to be what I can say, absorbed by the economy as such. So these are the major problems. The job losses, investor confidence will shake also, because if any industry has developed over so many years, suddenly you are making it illegal. So in other sectors also investors can be wary in investing, that maybe tomorrow what will happen? Government will declare that also illegal, or will make certain rules that might lead them what? With the losses and all that. So that is the problem. User refund balances and all that, that is also issue, because people who have put the money already in the account, suddenly it has been illegalized. So the processing of these transfers and also that users are saying it is not being done. So that is how we have to understand this entire situation. Now coming to look at some of the questions that can be asked from these topics. So to revise also it will be helpful in revision. So we have discussed the first topic is DRC. Democratic Republic of Congo is globally significant because of what it has. Which kind of all this resources, mineral resources? Cobalt and copper we have discussed. Okay, so DRC is very known for cobalt and copper. Second is, which of the conditions are favorable for wheat cultivation in India? A, B, C or D? We have discussed wheat is a kharif crop. So during sowing, what it requires? During growth, what it requires? Cool and moist climate. During ripening, what it requires? Warm and dry, bright sunlight we have discussed. Okay, so B is the correct option. Third is, under Digital Personal Data Protection Act, which of the following principles is emphasized? B. Okay, we have discussed that major theme is take consent from the user, then only you can process and use the data. Without that, it is not allowed as such. Okay. And last, the Himalayas, we have discussed about this amplification of disaster risks. So what are the regions behind it? Okay. Steep topography you have discussed, right? What else do you have? Melting of glacier, that is glacier retreat. What else do we have? Increasing extreme rainfall event. Low seismic activity, it is true or false? False. Himalayas are prone to high seismic activity. So earthquake occurs, that can cause GLOF, that can trigger crisis such. So because Himalayas are in the zone of CC convergence, active CC convergence, so what is the correct option? 1, 2 and 3, right? So that is the some questions. Now if you look at the importance of these topics, the most important is with which we have maximum convergence. So the high rainfall in Himalayas, because in the world geography also you have to look at the concept of rainfall, like orographic rainfall or cloud burst, okay, or GLOF and all that. Regions behind such kind of disasters. It is linked to the GS3 paper where you have to study about disaster management. In GS1 you have the weather, and again in India geography you have to look at what? Climate of India. So at least 4 or 5 chapters and topics are there with which this topic has convergence. So that is why it is very, very important, most important, and you should try to prepare this topic from both. This is the topic that you can say is relevant for which examination? Both prelims examination, mains examination, and even in interview. Questions can be asked because it is current affair based. So interviewers generally read newspapers, and that is from where they frame the questions. So for all the 3 stages of examination, this is the very, very important topic as such. Second is wheat target, again very important topic, okay, because pre-based facts can be asked related to what? The growing conditions of the wheat. Question can be asked, which of the states are known for the cultivation of wheat as such, or production based questions they are also asking these days. So related to which topic? Cropping region and the related climate of the crops. DRC, okay, 3-star, because here we have pre-based facts are asked something. Especially if any country of Africa is in news, make sure that you go through basic facts, because they keep asking questions like that. Few years back they have asked question, recently few countries of Africa was in news because of the outbreak of Ebola virus. Which of these are those countries? So that time in 2018, 7-8 countries were there where Ebola virus was rapidly spreading. So that is why it becomes important from previous fact perspective. Second, I told you that in Congo you have certain important places, features as such. So mapping understanding is required, plus health and humanitarian perspective also, because it is undergoing a crisis in both health crisis and humanitarian crisis. Online gaming and digital production, again basic concept you have to keep in mind, because in GS2 you have to study about what? Major policy changes, governance related changes and all that. In GS3 it has convergence with the cyber security and legislative measures, okay, that we have discussed, we have talked about. So 3 star. Now Youth Abhyas, not very important, just basic facts you have to keep in mind. Which countries participate in exercise Youth Abhyas, where exercise was conducted recently. This was old exercise, one of the longest exercise. These are these 4 things just, okay, nothing more is required in this particular case. So that is all about this particular week's topic.